Okay, I've got a little bit of information for everybody who apparently is not quite sure. First, we're going to start with a little bit of an arithmetic lesson. I know that when people hear higher taxes, sometimes they tend to stop using their brain, or I don't know, maybe they just never used it in the first place. But it's like this: if your taxes get raised $200 a year, but you pay $1,000 a year for health care, okay, raise your taxes $200 a year, but then you don't have to pay the $1,000 a year for health care. So even though you're paying higher taxes, you're still saving $800 a year. I'm pretty sure that that's broke down as much as it can possibly be broke down. So for everybody who has that hang up with universal health care when it just comes to the higher taxes portion, not only will you be paying a lot less money. I don't care what insurance you have, I don't care how good your coverage is, between your deductibles, your co-pays, your out of pocket, and then Lord knows the limits they put on everything. There's no possible way that you will be paying more with universal health care than you're paying now. You will certainly save a very substantial amount of money. Not to mention all of the other benefits, like when you pay hundreds of dollars a month for your family to have health care through your work, if you're lucky enough to have that, and then when you go to use it, they deny you. Like the great stories of the woman who died of cervical cancer because 10 years prior to having insurance, she had a yeast infection. Look in the fine print of your insurance policies, people. For all you women out there, if you've ever had a yeast infection and you haven't told your insurance about it, that means that when you ever need that for anything that has to do with women problems, you will be denied. Don't believe me? Do your own homework. In America, if enough people actually research things, then guess what? The ignorance would be gone. So I implore everybody out there who actually watches this, please do your own research. Learn these things on your own. Don't just listen to the fat guy sitting here ranting on a webcam. Please do. Look it up. Another instance of universal health care, and proof that it works, and I've said this on a prior upload, you've got to look for yourself at Canada, at Cuba, at France, Great Britain. There's dozens of countries that have universal health care. And even though the Republicans and other politicians like to go on TV and onto a podium and say how horrible that the people wait for months and people die, guess what? America is one of the few countries where people do actually die, either waiting for a procedure to be covered, or waiting for an organ, or waiting for some silly reason that does not measure up to the value of a human life. And everybody in this country, or the majority of people anyways, they just don't care until it's their mother, or it's their child, or it's your mother or your child who literally dies over something as stupid as appendicitis or infantigo or just some ignorant ailment that is 100% curable if only you could get medical coverage to do it. Or some other bureaucratic political bullcrap that prevents you or your loved one from having their lives saved. Please, I will provide numbers. If people can't look them up, call anybody in Canada, call anybody in France, call anybody in Cuba. You call, and that way you know it's not some act, it's not fake. Call any random person in these countries. Did you know that in France, not only is healthcare free, but if you had to have a taxi bring you when you're discharged from the hospital, they literally will pay you cash to cover your cab ride home and whatever you had to pay to get there in the cab. Okay? They pay you 6 months off of work paid for every human woman in that country if they get pregnant that year. If you do have a child, they pay for somebody to come in and help you with your housework, with your laundry, with your child. That's a country that cares about their residents. Okay? Everybody in this country could afford to pay a couple dollars extra a year because what we would get in return would be tenfold if the crooked politicians don't waste our money, and that's a whole nother issue. But the fact is, Americans need to care more about each other. Let's use these other countries as the example because they're proving it works. It's proof. Let's take care of each other. Let's stop worrying about who's making the profit. And these doctors, you know what? Instead of being worth 100 million, I don't think it'd be a problem if they're only worth 30 million. They're still multimillionaires. What's the issue? You know what? Who cares if you're worth an extra 30 million if you're already worth 30 million? Bottom line, let's start caring about each other and let's start taking care of each other. Then we can worry about these ignorant issues like, why do the people who make over $250,000 a year have to pay the same percentage of taxes as everybody else? Lord knows, on my $30,000 a year salary, I can afford to pay more taxes than the millionaires. Yeah. Thank you. Hopefully, someday my ramblings will actually reach somebody's ears.